Back to another episode of the Preacher and the Prodigy podcast. I'm the Prodigy and he's the Preacher, and we love talking college football. We have made it to bowl season. We got past championship week and Army Navy week, which is always a
Great
fun
game,
kind of
by the
transit.
way.
It was a great game as it always is, a tight one. And well, actually, no, it wasn't. Excuse
It
me.
was
I'm
the
thinking of
first one
last year.
that
This
first one that
year,
wasn't tight, but it was
Navy
still.
took over.
When I say it's a great game, it wasn't because it was so competitive. It's just a great game to watch. The uniforms, the chants, the singing second, and this year Army with all of the momentum just walked away thoroughly whooped
Ironically, it
by the
seemed like
United States Navy.
it seemed like the passing game was the difference in the game. Something you wouldn't often think of in a military football game. Nonetheless, we are gearing
And,
for.
and how about a fake punt with a big man rumbling, stumbling,
Love
bumbling?
to see it. Anyways, we are gearing towards bowl season now. Games throughout the week, starting off with the smaller, the New Orleans Bowl, Gasparilla Bowl, those kind of games, and then building up towards now the new 12-team playoff and more impactful bowl games. A lot of storylines during this season: players opting in, opting out, transferring, declaring for the draft, that kind of stuff. We are here for all of it, and we are here to pick the playoff games, which are coming up. One of them tomorrow, and then the other three of the first round throughout Saturday.
I'm excited. I'm
Yeah,
just so excited to watch Notre Dame, Indiana tomorrow night, and then back to back to back playoffs
I
on
believe
Saturday.
this is the first time this season that games will be streamed on TNT. So maybe subscribe to that before the weekend hits. 11 o'clock game and 3 o'clock game will be on TNT and Max.
Mm-hmm.
Shall we get started?
Let's do it. Let's get
do
into it.
Let's start with the Friday night game.
And as we step in, let's just talk about the fact that on the season, what are our records?
On the season, you are 39 and 33, and I am 37 and 35. So
Okay.
I still have some ground to make up. I've kind of been riding behind you, breathing down your neck the whole season, but you are leading the pack. In terms of picking the Michigan games, it looks like you beat me this season. He has been 157 points off cumulative. I'm 173. I do not expect to make up 16 points in the Alabama game. Let's
I don't expect Michigan to score 16 points in the Alabama game either.
or cover 16. Indiana and Notre Dame. This is a night game. This is at Notre Dame. Something we're going to see with the first round of the playoff. It is at home site. Something that both of us, I believe, love to see. Get the crowds into it. Notre Dame is favored by 7.5. Two very different styles of play. It seems like it's going to be snowing, so that probably favors the Irish, who is a more run-oriented team. But Kurt Signetti was ready to go with the snow, invited it, and said, "Let's just play ball." You get to go first. Not like it matters because it's only 4 games, but
Do you want to go first on this one? Do you have a sense of conviction?
I think
I'll
I do.
give you the opportunity to go first.
I think I'll go first. I like Indiana to cover this spread of 7.5. I think it kind of goes against all the logic with home game, weather favors Notre Dame, but I think that Kurt is going to be ready to go, and is going to come out
Kurt
strong.
the quarterback or Kurt the coach or
Doesn't
Kurt
matter.
the both?
Whichever one. And I think that it's going to be tight from the get-go and will continue that way. I do think Notre Dame wins this game, but give me Indiana to cover 7.5. I got this one 28-23, the Irish moving on.
What
to
does
the second
Vegas
round.
have for an over/under?
I could look it up right now. I would not assume it would be that high.
It's probably dropping over the course of the week as this weather
Probably.
system has moved to the upper Midwest.
It is at 51. 51 points, so not a crazy low over/under.
So it's
but
pretty
I
much
guess
what
I'm
right on. You're right on it.
28-23 Irish.
And so Vegas basically has it 29-22,
Yeah.
something like that. When Indiana has played good teams, they've won. The one time they played a very good team,
They got blasted.
they did not look nearly so good. So is Indiana more like, in this case, the spoiler team that on the beginning of the year was surprising people, or are they the Indiana team who went into the horseshoe and got exposed? That says a lot. That question about my feelings about Notre Dame. And I have been a Notre Dame believer all year long, except when they play Northern Illinois. I'm going to take the Irish.
You
to
did
cover.
not. You did not believe Northern Illinois would keep that close.
No. After the game, I'm saying.
Right.
Suddenly, I was not a believer.
Yeah. Okay.
But
up to Northern Illinois.
Right, and after, I mean, they have looked good. They look solid. They're the team that put a whooping on Army when no one else did.
Still, maybe one of the wackiest upsets this season. It's just incredible.
Yeah, probably. Can you think of a bigger one than Northern Illinois? I mean, Miami losing to. Did they lose to
Syracuse? But that's not.
Well, I was thinking more like Georgia Tech.
Yeah, Georgia Tech had a few upsets this season, but
Florida State over Georgia Tech turned out to be Florida State kept that really close in retrospect. Yeah. But I'm going to take the Irish, and I'm going to say it's a little bit lower scoring game. I'm going to say 24-14.
Yeah. It is pretty rare sometimes the away team heads to the home team stadium and puts a whooping on a top 10 ranked team.
It doesn't happen. And if it does happen, then you just say, what happened? What happened?
Moving on to Saturday.
What happened?
Speaking of which, Saturday is the NAIA championship between Grandview and Kaiser, which is not on ESPN this year, so no one
Go
will
GV.
That, but I think they got a shot. Anyways, the game we will be picking in the game a lot more people will care about between SMU and Penn State. This is a game on TNT, and this is an 11 o'clock Central Time start. Mm-hmm. Penn State is favored by 8.5. Over-under on this one is 54, so a little bit higher scoring. Vegas sees this one as a 31-23 game. Mm-hmm. What do you think is going to happen?
We're going to chalk again. I'm going to take the home team. I think that SMU really actually impressed me the way that they handled Clemson down in South Carolina, but this is a little different animal in climate up in State College. And Penn State, I was very, very pleasantly surprised that they hung in there with Oregon the way that they did. Went punch for punch offensively. Interesting thing, transfer portal era, Bro Pribula opts out of the playoffs and enters the portal. A lot of players have joined the portal, but they said, I'm going to stay with my team.
That's just
Pribula said, no.
The portal needs to open after.
I'm really excited to join that Tim Lester offense out in Iowa City. I'm going to take Penn State in this one. I'm going to take Penn State to win this game 35-20.
I'm going to agree with you. Probably a lower scoring game, but I do think the physicality of Penn State and playing Big Ten football up there is a little bit different than what Clemson was working with in the championship game. I think
running game.
Even though that James Franklin has not done particularly too good in these kinds of games, I do think he gets this one done. Kind of a relief for Nittany Lion Nation. Give me Penn State to win this game 27-16.
Okay, we agree.
The 3 o'clock game between Clemson and Texas is probably the most lopsided game of the playoff first round.
Biggest mismatch, probably.
About people are giving an 80% chance for Texas to win. The line on this game is the Longhorns minus 12, and the over-under here is 51.5. So near what Notre Dame, Indiana was, but people do believe that Texas could run away with this game a lot easier than Notre Dame could. I am going to side with them. I think we're going to see the Clemson that we saw in the second half of the SMU game, not the one that we saw get a lot of touchdowns off mistakes from SMU, and kind of SMU gifting them the ball early and getting up a lot early. I do think that Texas is a better team. I think they handle their business here at home. Give me Texas to cover that 12 with a 35-17 win.
It's a good pick. I disagree with it. I'm going to take Clemson to stay inside the number. I do think Texas is decidedly a better team, but I don't think that they're a whole lot better team. I don't think they're a 2-touchdown better team. And Texas has sputtered a couple points along the way this year. Clemson has sputtered more often. Again, I think Texas wins, but I'm willing to take a chance on a 31-20 game. So I'm gonna take all 12 of those points and hope that Clemson stays inside the number. let's go Tigers.
All right, I like that pick. The final game, probably the one that most people will be paying attention to,
Yeah, this is the
this
grand
is the
finale.
capper,
Yep.
appropriately the night capper between the Vols and the Bucks. Tennessee and Ohio State. Ohio State is favored by 7.5. There's been a lot of talk about, well, the stadium's going to be burnt orange and so many Tennessee fans are going to come. I don't think that's the case. I think Ohio State's going to show up for this game.
Do you think
Both
that?
off
That's
the field.
interesting.
I do, because I think that even though with the loss to Michigan and kind of the derailing of the program,
You think they processed it?
people still understand that this is one of the maybe best Ohio State teams in the last decade. They still got everything in front of them and a national championship to play for. I don't know. I think 7.5 is a really good line because I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. Over-unders at 46. But give me Ohio State to win by 10. I like 24-14 here. I do think it's a lower scoring game. I think Jim Knowles will do a good enough job of keeping Nico Imaleava in contain, as he's done with that defense all year. Is been, I believe, them or Texas has the best scoring defense in the country.
It's Ohio State.
Give me the Buckeyes, 24-14. Just a solid overall win, and they will move on to face the Ducks in a rematch.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think Ohio State is. I think they have to win. They just have to win.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't like the pressure on a team like that, but in this case, I think that Ryan Day is just putting all the chips on the table. He might be coaching for his job here, despite the affirmation from Ross Bjork, athletic director of Ohio State University. I think Ohio State is going to do what Joel Klatt talked about Michigan doing last year. I think it's going to be a boa constrictor kind of game, and Tennessee having to come north is not going to be helpful to them. I think Ohio State is going to run the ball, including more often with Will Howard, to set up those shot plays to Jeremiah Smith, Rebecca Buka, and the rest of that Carnell Tate, that whole star-studded receiving core that they opted not to use against Michigan for whatever reason. But I think you see a lot of Travion Henderson in the first quarter, and I think you see a lot of Emeka Buka in the second half. And I think Ohio State wins this game. I'm going to say, I like your score. I'm going to say it's even lower.
Could be.
I think it's going to be like 23-10. Ohio State clamps down here and moves on for that rematch they so desperately want against the Ducks.
I think you're giving too much credit to Ryan Day and Chip Kelly with how they're able to run their offense. You're saying they're going to use Trayvon Henderson in the first half to set up something. Well, they ain't setting up anything. They're just like, yeah, we're going to run the ball with Trayvon Henderson, and we're going to make it work. And sometimes it just doesn't work.
Well, Tennessee happens to not have Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant and Rayshon Benny. Despite having James Pierce, they do not have the defensive tackles to control that line of scrimmage.
They have the defensive ends. But that could play into it. Maybe they do decide to run the ball, and maybe it works out because they run a whole bunch of inside zones and get going vertically and see if Tennessee
I think they're going to use Will Howard's legs more than they did against Michigan, to stress the edges a little bit more. So we agree on that. So you got a chance to tie me because we agree on 2 and disagree on 2, and that will be a fascinating turn of events heading into the semifinal round, which quarterfinal round, correct. Which we haven't talked about very much, but I dislike that the top 4 teams do not get a home game. I would much rather see a playoff in which every one of the top 4 seeds is guaranteed a home game.
Yeah.
And we said I just don't think that this 12-team playoff, as it's constituted right now, is going to last very long. I think that you need to consider going to 16 teams and then just seeding them. I said to you many times that March Madness basketball tournament is the greatest sporting spectacle we have. And that's what they do. You don't get a first round bye if you're number 1 seed Kentucky. You still got to take the floor, take the court. I think go to 16 teams and then just do away with the fact that these Mountain West and get auto bids. Just seed them at the end of the season.
Yeah, I do. I think 16 is too much, but I agree with you.
Why? Why is it too much? It's the same amount of rounds. It's the same amount of weeks. You just like the bye?
I think the top 4 teams deserve a bye if they made the top 4, because that's like the college football playoff that we used to have. It's just you get, and it's not, and they don't even get a home game either.
Right? They should get a home game, is what I'm saying. They should get a home game.
I'm saying, I'm
first
saying
2 rounds
that they
should be
don't get a home game. I'm saying, I think it's absolutely fine if you put the top 4 teams, they all get a bye, and then the next 8 best teams, and have them play in the first round game, and then go from there quarterfinals. I think 16 would be fine. I just think that the difference between 12 and like the 12th best team and the 16th best team is too much, and it's just going to end up being blowouts for the first, for the top 4 seeds.
Well, I think that's okay. I mean, it's almost like an auto buy, but it's more football. It's more on campus. The NFL they're down to 1 buy. I think that makes sense, and we'll see. It's not going to be in 20. It's a whole new grant.
They have said that they're
rights.
talking about it now. So.
But I just don't think that Boise State and Arizona State getting
that's just
auto buys in this season of college football is appropriate. I mean, Georgia and Texas are this close to each other, and I think Bama probably should be in the playoff. I think Miami would be really fun in the playoff. So you look at those next couple of teams out, and I'm fine even if, like you say, we're going to have the American champ and the MAC champ, some of those in there as well. But we're not making the rules. We're just laughing at flags and things like that. So we shall see. A little bit shorter podcast this week because there's only 4 games out of the 5, and there's not much to talk about with Michigan except they still can't find wide receivers. However, and no one will come and play with Bryce Underwood.
However, we did smash an Alabama defensive lineman in the past 2 days.
30 career tackles in 4 seasons. That's a rotation piece. Damon Payne, former 5-star, never really did anything at Alabama, but 330-pound guys aren't growing on trees either, so you'll have to have them in the
program. Put them in the Michigan system and see how they do.
Coach Espo. All right, so we'll see how it goes, and we'll be back to talk with you next week about that quarterfinal round. I'm really looking forward to it. We have different predictions as to who will be playing in that round, but get to see Scadaboo and Janty and some other players. Maybe not Carson Beck, though, it sounds like.
They're preparing for Carson Beck to not be ready for the quarterfinal matchup.
Yeah. Until then, I'm the preacher.
And I'm the prodigy.
Peace to your people.
See you next week.
All right.